Once you have logged into PowerTeacherPro, you'll notice you have a list of courses that you are teaching. In order to document pieces of evidence in PowerTeacherPro, choose the course for which the evidence coincides. You'll notice that I have several pieces of evidence already in place here, and I'm going to add another piece of evidence. So I'm going under the plus sign here and choosing assignment. From here, there's several pieces of information that you're going to have to document. The first is to select which classes this piece of evidence goes with. Then you're going to write the title of your evidence, and I'm going to call this evidence number 5. Select the category, which will always be student evidence, and then the score type will always be collected only. Once you've completed this information, then you're going to go under the Standards tab, and you're going to assign it to a learning requirement. So I'm going to assign it here to transformations. Notice in the third column, it says count in grade. If this is activated, then this will be a piece of evidence used to determine an overall proficiency. If this is perhaps a piece of practice or something that won't be used to determine overall proficiency, you can uncheck that. But for now, we're going to leave it checked. And you can also assign more than one learning requirement if you'd like to a piece of evidence. You can save and close here or go back to assignment and save and close there. Now, once that piece of evidence has been titled, then you can go up and score it either here or just click on the title itself. You'll notice that the student names have been blocked off just for privacy reasons in the first column. The second column is the column that will represent the status of that piece of evidence. So you have multiple options. It could be missing, it could be collected, it could be late, it could be incomplete, it could be exempt, or the student could have been absent. Now, for the purpose of this assignment, I'm going to say that all students have completed it. So I'm going to choose collected and then go to this vertical fill button, and it will fill them in all for me at once. It just speeds up the process. The next column and subsequent columns will be the learning requirements this piece of evidence is attached to. So I'm going to choose on the first student, and I can actually physically just put in the scores and press enter every time. Or I could actually type it in and return. And let's say I know that all the rest of the students were proficient with a 3. So I could put a 3 and then use that fill button to, again, fill in all the empty locations. Go ahead and make sure you save scores, and then you've just completed putting in a piece of evidence. I'm going to go back to my assignments list, and I see that they're all listed here. This 28 out of 28 is not an actual score. This just says that 28 students out of the 28 students in the class have a proficiency attached to that piece of evidence. The next step is going to be occurring at the end of a grading period. So at a quarter or at a semester, you're going to want to go under the grading tab to standards. Now here again, you'll see the student names to the right, which have been blocked off, and then you'll see a series of columns. The first column is a comment column, and this is where you're going to log any comments that you have that you want parents to see with regard to the Building a Better You. The next 4 columns are the different categories within Building a Better You. So for example, if I was to score the Building of a Better You, I would choose the first student, I would choose a 3, and then automatically fill that in. The majority of your students will be proficient at a 3. I would then go in and change individual students to something other than a 3. Now, if I change a score to something other than a 3, it's usually best practice to then put a comment next to that explaining why that student is receiving a score less than 3 on the BBU. So once you've done that, then you can move on to the subsequent columns, which are your actual learning requirements. So the evidence that I put in earlier all dealt with transformations. So this is the end of the quarter. I want to put in a final proficiency for each student. So I'm going to choose the first student, and I can type in the overall proficiency right here, but I need to see the evidence that I'm using to make that determination. So I'm going to go up here to the lightning bolt symbol, and I'm going to open it up, and this is where you're going to see all of those pieces of evidence. Notice that the evidence is listed down below, and the actual scores are here in numerical form and up here as data points. It's really easy to look and determine what you think that overall proficiency should be. So for this student, I'm saying his or her overall proficiency is going to be a 2. Now I can easily move to the next student by using this down arrow, and now I have the next student's data, which I would say would be a 3, and then so on and so forth. You would go ahead and look at each student's and determine what you feel at this point is the level of understanding that they have, or their proficiency score. When you're done, you can go ahead and X out of that data box, and you would go ahead and push save down below. So this is the way that you would enter in your scores at the end of each of the reporting terms.